Hey guys, how's it going? Ben here with Apex Props, and I got another project for us today. As you know, I have been working on Master Chief. I haven't showed this on this channel yet, but I'm also working on Commander Cody's suit. You know what I need? I need another costume. Today we're starting work on a easier one that I think I can actually finish in a reasonable amount of time. This is from another video game, you might have heard of it. It's called Destiny. I want to do the Hunter from Destiny 2. I want to make the cloak with the cape. I want to make a cool helmet and a cool chest piece. And I want to go thrift shopping to get all of the clothes for it. But first things first, I think it's a good place to start with a weapon. I also want to put a big old knife kind of right on my chest here. So that's where we're going to start. Today we're making the Hunter knife from Destiny out of humble floor mats from Canadian Tire and this single sheet of pink craft foam from the dollar store. Got to drop the blueprint, so that's where we're going to start on this knife. This is a great beginner project if you've never worked with foam. So we're gonna hop onto the computer, run through on how I'm going to draw the blueprint for this big old knife. Alright, this is a program called Inkscape. It is free to download. I will link it in the description. It is a free vector drawing software, something kind of like Adobe Illustrator. I'm going to load in my reference image. Here it is. This is the knife that we will be making, the Hunter knife from Destiny. It's a pretty simple shape. Got this on the first layer. I'm going to set the picture's opacity to 50 so I can kind of see through it. It helps me see my drawings more clearly. Add a layer. I like to call this one Sketch. This is where I'm going to do all of my drawing. So I press B to activate the Bezier Curves tool, or that's over on the side of the screen here. This is going to let me draw lines. I think I'll start right at the tip of the knife so I can zoom in, click, and I don't have to draw the curves in right away. So I'm going to just do straight lines for now, connecting all of the corners. And now it's just a process of tracing basically the knife. Trying to do it with as few points as possible. Just go like that and then kind of straight up. That's actually a point. Don't have to do anything like that. And close my loop. I'm gonna press N for edit paths by node. That is the second from the top option right here. And now I can go and add the curves to my line. So I literally just click and drag the curves. I can move my mouse cursor to fiddle with the lines. This takes a bit of practice, but once you get used to it, it's pretty good. I can hold control and click on that point to straighten it out, and then redo my lines. So now that is a nice solid line. Same thing up here. Sometimes it's a little funky, but you just kind of got to play with it. Most of the time you can do a pretty good job just by eye. There is a ever so slight curve to this line, which I curve. Nice! That is the outline of my drawing. Now I can add in some of the details. So this is obviously a little circle, so I can press E for ellipse, and holding control, I can make perfect circles. If I'm not holding control, I can make ellipses. Same thing, circles, nice and easy. Alright, that's pretty much it. The last thing we have to do is the Vanguard symbol. That looks, quite frankly, good enough for me. And that is pretty much our pattern done. I can go back to my reference layer, hide it, and there's my pattern, all done. Pattern is all cut out, looks fantastic. So I have a sheet of simply just floor mat foam. I bought this at Canadian Tire. I need to make this knife 2 layers thick. Size out my knife. Instead of tracing and cutting it out, I'm just going to make sure that I cut out a piece of foam that is big enough for my knife. So that looks good. I'm gonna do the same thing over here. That should do it. Now I can cut these out, sand the annoying texture on the back off, and then I can glue them together, and then I can trace and cut out my knife. Got plenty of floor mat left over for future projects. To the garage! Sanding went great. That means that we get a perfect surface for gluing. I have my can of barge contact cement. I'm gonna have a link to where I got my can in the description. It's a contact cement, so I'm going to brush it on both sides, wait about 5 to 10 minutes, and then I can stick them together. They will be bonded forever. The stuff is already starting to stink just from opening the can. Gluing time! All right, my glue is pretty much all set. It's been about 7 minutes. Good enough. You know it is ready if you touch it and it doesn't come off on your fingers. Because I didn't cut out any shapes, I don't have to worry about lining it up too well. So I'm just going to make sure that I press these pieces together. Give it a good squish. I'm now going to take my thin craft foam and I'm going to cut same size strips for my knife, and I'm going to contact cement these strips to either side. But before I glue it down, I'm going to cut out this little detail and cut that through the foam. So when I glue them in, there will be an indent where that detail is. Alright, I've got the knife cut out. I used my bandsaw and then I used my little belt sander here to straighten up all the edges and smooth out all of the rough bandsaw cuts. And I gotta add the bevel, I gotta sharpen the blade. So I'm gonna be using this tool again. I want to draw where I'm going to bevel it. I'm thinking about 1/4 of an inch should be good enough. So I'm just going to wing it. That looks pretty good to me. Then just gonna run up the entirety of the blade. And it ends pretty much there. And I'm pretty happy with that. I'm gonna add a center line down the middle of the blade so I know where to sand to. And same thing going down the length of the blade. We're back in from the shop. It looks really good so far. I'm really happy with it. The blade, I am really happy with. It's sharpened up really nice, just using my belt sander. If you don't have a belt sander, you can totally get away with a rotary tool, or a Dremel of any kind would be great. I kind of tried to point the end of it, but it didn't work great. I would have skipped that step and probably just done something like that with the Dremel. Next step is going to be to punch out the holes. Figuring out how I'm gonna do that. I might just use the Dremel and punch right through because I don't have a drill press or any kind of Forstner bits or big drill bits that are this size. I think I'm just gonna have to try my luck with the Dremel. After that, there's a couple of rivet details that I forgot to draw on, like this guy, and then there's one kind of right at the back. Those I'll do on the Dremel as well. This is my Dremel. So what I'm doing is I'm pulling the sanding drum off of the drum head, leaving a little indent. Want it to go straight down, don't want to go at an angle, I want it to go straight down. So I'm gonna go at a relatively slow speed. Drum hasn't disintegrated. Holy moly.
Drum hasn't disintegrated.
Yeah, that disintegrated again. But I'm gonna find a different way to do this. Thanks, Amazon. I purchased a set of Forstner drill bits, 7 of them. I have my drill here. So far, so good. Definitely a hole. You can see right through it. Hello. 2 more holes. Hole number 2. Go up to the 1-inch drill bit. Nice. Alright, our knife is pretty much done. I'm going to use Mod Podge to seal the foam. I've got a sponge brush and I'm just gonna dose the whole thing, good 2 or 3 layers of Mod Podge. That is 1 good layer of Mod Podge. I'm going to let that sit for 20 minutes, maybe half an hour. When we come back, I will put another layer on. Alright, our knife is all primed. With Mod Podge, I put 2 layers on. I'm gonna get started on painting. I'm just going with some hand-brushed acrylic paints. I've got Mars Black. I'm going to use this as my base layer. I'm going to thin it out with some water. Kind of want this to be a little runnier so it goes on a little easier. Doesn't leave as many brush strokes. And I'm just going to cover the entire knife. Alright, it's been about 15 minutes. Paint's pretty much dry, good enough to move on. Next up, I am going to be using these folk art metallic silvers. I'm going to be using a technique called dry brushing. I kind of want mine to look like really like metal, so I'm going with a dry brushing step. I have a acid brush. I keep a couple in my paintbrush kit because they're coarse. They're great for dry brushing. So I've got paint in my brush, and now I'm going to proceed to wipe it all into my paper towel. I'm left with not very much, and I'm just going to go hog wild on the surface of my knife. I'm not trying to cover all of the black, I just want to cover most of the black. Alright, I'm gonna let that dry, and then I'm gonna do another pass in 5-10 minutes or so. Alright, I went and had dinner. This is all completely dry now. The silver's dry, and the rest of the black paint is dry. I'm switching it up a bit. Tamiya paints, model paints. This is the chrome silver. I'm gonna do the same technique. I'm going to dry brush this knife with a different paint, of course. How shiny that is. Next step is going to be, I think I'm going to put the wrap on. Looking at this reference image, it looks like nylon webbing, and I just so happen to have a big old piece of nylon webbing right here. And I'm going to just chop this into strips, wrap it around, tack it down with some super glue. Knife's all done, guys. Turned out really good, in my opinion. The wrap, super easy. Really happy with the paint job. It's not faithful to the original design. I didn't really like that. I made mine look like real metal. It's very shiny. This was really quick and really easy. And if you're new to foam smithing, this is a great project to start with. It's a great use of some techniques like sharpening a faux blade. It's just a great beginner's project, and I highly recommend you make one because it's really fun to throw at people. Hey Adam. That's pretty much going to be it for this video. That's all I've got for you today. My name is Ben. This has been Apex Props. Thanks for watching.